Everybody, so let's talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing today. So this is kind of a sample of what we're going to be creating here, okay? And so I'm going to walk you through the whole process of how this is done. So we're going to use these images that are in Schoology to create your design. Now, when we get started with this, press the Option key and I'm going to scale this way so it makes my image bigger. Okay, so then I start right there. Now, I've hidden all of these other layers, but I'm going to select all of them, rasterize it, and then away we go. And we're going to get started here. Now, one of the assignments is that when we select all of this, we use the pen tool. And sometimes you're going to use the pen tool, but for the sake of what we're doing right now, it's going to be a lot faster if I just use this quick selection tool. So I'm going to go speed through this, well, relatively. But sometimes, and you might see it as I do this, okay, this one actually worked out pretty slick, but sometimes if it doesn't line up quite right, it doesn't look as good. So we want to make sure that we have everything selected that we want. So I'm going to go copy paste. So Command C, Command V, and then I get my duplicated layer here. Okay, so I'm going to hide this one for now. Okay, the next thing I want to do, I'm going to select in this shape here. Okay, that actually worked out pretty slick. Otherwise, what I would use is the polygonal lasso, and I would just click, 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 click. Okay, so I'm going to go copy paste, and so now I've got a second layer right here. Okay, so now this layer with the waterfall, so I'm going to bring that in. In fact, I'm going to start here, and I'm going to paint my background. And so paint bucket, I'm going to paint that into the background. I'll come back to that one later on. Okay, so now this properties layer, I don't want that. Okay, so now this next thing here. So what I want to do is I'm going to change this waterfall so I can see it a little bit better. Okay, so I'm going to use this move tool and I'm going to have to shrink this down a little bit so it's going to fit better for what I'm trying to do here. Okay, and now I'm going to make a duplicate layer. So I think I've got this the right size that I want. Okay, so that's pretty good. So I'm going to make a duplicate layer. Okay, click OK, and then I'm going to hide this one. Now for this layer, I am going to create clipping mask, and so it's going to go into that layer. So we're going to go 100% here. Okay, so it's inside part of the phone. Now for you guys with the other phones that we've got, so all of this is going to be a little bit different on your newer devices. So it's going to be a bit different. It might fill the whole space, it might not. So it depends on what kind of phone that you're using here. Okay, so I'm going to take this picture here and I'm going to change this one to 100%. Okay, so now this is where it gets kind of fun here. So I'm going to take this layer and I'm going to create a vector mask. Okay, now I'm going to use my paintbrush for this. And so this is what we do. So we toggle these two. So I've got a black and white. And so what it's going to do is it's going to erase this. So let's change this to 100%. And so I'm going to go in here and just start erasing some of this extra stuff here. And so you can see how it's kind of coming out of the phone. Now if I do this, oops, I erased a little bit too much, so then I'm going to switch these two and I'm going to bring it back in. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to it. I'm going to make this smaller, and I really don't want this little edge right here, so I'm going to try to erase some of that. And then this portion right here, I'm going to try to get rid of that as well. Now I want this to kind of go off of the edge, so I am going to paint this part. I'm going to use the clone stamp, make it bigger, and I want to go onto this spot. So make sure you're on the right part of the layer. So we're going to grab that and we're going to draw it right over here. And so we'll have that little extra effect. Okay, so now we've got that. Now if I go in here and I want to erase any of it, I can. So I'm going to use my paint bucket or my paintbrush, and I think the white is going to erase it. Nope, the white's going to add to it. So we'll switch that. So the black, I'm going to erase that section. And so now you can see how this is starting to come out of it a little bit more. Okay, so now the next part that I want to do is I'm going to add the egret in. Okay, so with the egret, we're going to use the quick selection tool, and then I'm just going to keep drawing right through him, and then this part gets a little bit tricky, and so there's different ways that you can go about making the selection. And so you can use the polygonal lasso, which can work pretty effectively, but I'm just using this quick selection here. Now I'm going to draw in here, so I'm deselecting this area, so I'm holding the Option key down as I'm drawing this. And so I'm just eliminating portions of my selection. Okay, and then I'm going to get rid of that part right there, that part right there, and then I'm going to use the lasso tool because there's some of these spots that I don't want. So I'm going to get rid of that. And then I'm going to get rid of this part. And then right in here, I'm going to get rid of this part. Alright, so you get the idea. And as I'm deselecting part of this, I'm using the Option key. Okay, so I've got that, and then I'm going to go select, inverse, delete. Alright, and then here we go. We're going to shrink this down. Alright, and my egret is going to be, it's going to be about right there. Okay, and then I'm going to go up to this layer here. So now I've got my birds. Now, in order to select these birds, I'm going to use the magic wand. I'm going to select all the gray area and the white area and press delete, and then that's gone. And I'm going to move these, shrink it down, move it over this way, shrink it down a little bit more, and then so I'm going to have my birds flying through here, hit return, then grab this part, add my parrots. See how this works. I'm going to grab the magic wand. It's taking a little bit longer, so we're going to change this to about 40. There we go. Press delete. Much better. Alright, so now pull this down here. So this is, you get the idea of what we're trying to do here. Okay, now the hardest part is this last part where we're going to try to finish this design up. So I'm deleting any of these extra pieces here. Okay, so now the way to go about this last part here. Alright, so I'm going to make a new layer. So we've got two steps left. One, I want to make like a cool glow going right through here. So I'm going to grab a paintbrush and I'm going to make it white. And on this new layer here, I'm going to change my brush size to 1200, hardness 0. Okay, and then opacity, I'm going to go to about 50. And I'm just going to draw a shape right through there. Okay, now I've painted that, so now I'm going to erase this because I don't want it in the actual picture. Okay, so I've got that part. Okay, now I'm going to change this to about 70. Okay, so there's just a little bit of a glow there. Now the next thing I want to do is I'm going to add a curve. I'm going to add some curves to this design now. Okay, and with this, then I'm going to go from this curve, I'm going to go into my gradient overlay. And so now I've got, what happens here usually is you get something like this. Normal, normal, and then linear. And so I get something like this. So I want to change it to this purple to orange. Okay, so I'm going to reverse this, and I'm going to change it to radial. And then I'm going to move this piece. So you can move this around to wherever you want the light source to be. So I want my light source to be right there. Okay, then from there, I want to go into soft light. And so now I've got this nice little glow going through the picture here. Okay, so it gives it this nice little effect. Then the next thing I want to do is, let's see here. I'm going to add color balance. And so with my color balance, you can change the midtones a little bit. I just want to soften this just a little so the color looks a little bit nicer, maybe a little bit warmer. And so you get some little effect like that. Okay, so you can see the difference of what's happening with this overall design. Now with this background here, I want to add a filter to it. So I'm going to go into my filter just to create like a little bit of a texture in there. And so what you end up doing is kind of up to you for this. And so I'm going to go a little bit smaller and then click OK. And then I just have this kind of speckled design going through here. Now, if I want to, I can go in here and maybe I want to add a little bit of a paintbrush to it. So I'm going to make this even bigger. And what I'm doing is I'm just kind of covering in some of this extra paint. So it smooths the picture out a little bit. In fact, I'm going to go up to 90. And so it creates just a little bit more contrast to your design. So there you go. That's the design. This is what we're working on. If you want to lighten the background, you can, just so it pops out a little bit more. But this is kind of the effect that we're going with. Here's another one that I did. And so you can see some of the different effects in there. And then here's another one that was created. And so there's a lot of different things that you can do for this overall design. So anyway, have fun with this one. Good luck. There's a lot of challenges in it, so I want to make sure that you follow all the steps appropriately. So good luck with this and have some fun.